Welcome to the First Responders Podcast, the podcast for first responders, made by first responders. Now, for your host, Brian Miller, a retired first responder with over 25 years of experience.
All right, you're back with the First Responders Podcast. This is Brian. I am on the phone this time with Chief Williams from Norfolk Fire and Rescue. Before Chief gets on here, I just want to say, in the interest of transparency, my dad was a Norfolk firefighter for 30 years. That department played a huge part in my life growing up because not only was my dad a firefighter, my mother worked at the Norfolk Fire Department Credit Union for close to 40 years, if I remember right. So, that department has played a big part in my life. And I still, when I get to Norfolk, every time I see one of those engines or one of those Norfolk medics, I swell up a little bit thinking about my folks. All right. Good morning, Chief. How are you, sir?
Good morning, Brian. Great. Thank you. How are you doing today?
I am doing well, sir. Doing well. So, like I told you before, this is an information thing and a recruiting thing. So everybody I talk to gets the same set of questions. We'll be 15, 20, maybe 25 minutes. But, Chief, if you could tell me first a little bit about the city of Norfolk and the department that serves it.
Okay. Well, as you know, I'm sure you're well familiar with the city of Norfolk. We've got about 260,000 residents here in the city. It's a very old city as far as it goes on the East Coast here, and our department is actually one of the older departments in the nation. We're just over 150 years old. It was started back in 1871, which is a long time ago.
Yeah, and on the other end of the spectrum, the other day I interviewed one of the fire marshals from Chesapeake, and that department was 50, 60 years old. So big time gap.
Yeah, we've got a lot of tradition in this department. We still have one of the older fire stations. We still are using it today, but right down the street from it, we have a brand new one being built, and we expect it to be ready to be moved into by the end of this September. So we're getting close to moving out of that old station, which is one of the original horse and buggy stations. We've only got 2 left of those, but yeah, so that's kind of exciting for us. But yes, to get back to that, we are a very, very old traditional fire department. We've got 14 fire stations, and we run 3 shifts with just over 500 sworn members on our department.
Wow. And you do the 24-hour shifts, correct?
Yes, sir. We do 24-hour shifts. Our shifts are actually from 7 a.m. to 7 a.m. We are a split department of fire and medics. And we just recently, this year, started hiring for what we call paramedic-only positions, because there is a demand right now for the paramedics for that level of EMS certification. We're finding that a lot of our members, it's very difficult for them to go back to school and get that certification, and some just don't want to because it is a very challenging position. But we are trying to adapt and overcome the shortage, and we just started hiring paramedic-onlys, and right now currently we have 12 of them. And we're looking to just add a few more and see how that goes.
That was a conversation my dad and I had often because, he went in 1963 or 64 when they were doing the, 24 on, 24 off or ever. I mean, that old schedule was brutal.
Yeah.
But we would always have the conversation because I got started late in life. I think I was 34 or 35 when I went through my EMT training down in North Carolina and decided to come home and try to follow Dad into the fire department. But I had some back and neck problems. So, I was out of the running early, but we always had that conversation about medics and firefighters being 2 different types of people. And, the old guys, like my dad, didn't want anything to do with being a medic. And back then, the medics didn't want anything to do with being firefighters. So that was always a good conversation. And I think we're finding out, these years later that that it's true to a certain extent.
I think you're right. I think that's unfortunately when we merged back in the day when we were Norfolk Fire Department and Norfolk Paramedical Services, and we merged. There were a lot of people forced into a situation they didn't want to be in, and a lot of the departments in the nation did the same thing because
Yep.
it saves money. But now we're going back to the way it was. Where it's almost like where we are realizing that there are people that don't want to do certain things anymore, and after COVID. I think the mentality is, especially for the younger generation, that life is too short. I'm not going to do something I don't want to do, and that's what we're facing right now.
Yeah, it's a dilemma, and it was, I'm old enough when my dad went from Norfolk Fire to what was Norfolk Fire and Paramedical Services at one time,
Yep,
and
yep.
he would, I don't know what all that means. I'm a firefighter, yada yada. Didn't want anything to do with that medical stuff. So tell me about. I know you guys, you're firefighters, the fire department first, but what other specialty units do you guys have?
So well, being surrounded by water, we have a pretty robust water rescue program, which what we call is a VOP or vessel operator program. So a lot of training goes into that because we have two 32-foot fire rescue boats that have pump capabilities up to 1,500 gallons per minute with a bunch of life-saving equipment on them. And we also have equipment that can monitor and detect nuclear and biological and chemical emergencies, which was a grant through the Navy because of, we cover the
Yeah.
Navy base. So
Yeah, right.
we've got some really high specialty equipment on those vessels just because of the proximity to the naval base here. We've got a pretty robust technical rescue program here, which is combined with our hazardous materials specialists as well. So we have two rescue companies. One's located at Station 1 downtown, and the other one's Station 14 by the airport.
Oh, okay. My dad spent years at 14 and actually loved that station because they stayed moving, man.
And nothing's changed. I just spent 4 years there before I came into my position that I'm in now, and it is the nickname is called the Nut House because it never stops.
Yeah.
Every now and again I'd go home and my wife would say, "How was your night?" And I'd say, "Well, I didn't have any calls, but I'd never got a minute of sleep because the bell just keeps going off
Yeah.
there. Doesn't matter who it's for.
Yeah.
That place is literally a nut house."
Yes, sir, it is. So tell me about, I'm sure we have fire marshals and all that too, correct?
We do. Yeah, we have a full fire prevention program. We have a public education program. Our training department is pretty large right now. We're running 2 academies a year out of that. So we run a fire academy basically starting one every 6 months. So we have to consistently rotate people from the street into the fire academy to maintain that recruitment level. And then in our administrative positions, we've got our logistics, which has expanded over the years to 2 major full-size warehouses full of spare apparatus and equipment and all the specialty stuff that we need to get nowadays.
Wow. So like you touched on the academy.
Yeah,
Tell me real briefly about, because I'm sure you guys are shorthanded, right?
we are, but not as bad as some of the other departments that you may hear of. It's one of those fluctuations where we graduate an academy and we put 25 to 30 people on the street and we think we're back to normal, and then we have those members that are eligible for retirement that we weren't expecting and they just
Yeah.
decide to retire. So it's just such an up and down flow of recruitment versus holding on to our people. And so right now I want to say we are right around 45 people short, but we
Okay,
have
that's not too bad.
no, it's not, but it's enough. In summertime right now, everybody wants to take their
Yep.
vacations. Plus, we've got a few injuries. So, with that being said, we do run into a situation where we have to do a lot of overtime for people to make sure we staff we never, what departments refer to as run short. We never run short. We never put a truck out of service, and we
Okay.
never run a truck short staffed. We are always
Yeah.
fully staffed on every truck, no matter what we do. Whether it means people can't go home in the morning is how we do it. So we do make sure we provide the service, a consistent service to the cities, as well as making sure we keep our members safe by having the right manpower on each truck.
Very cool. So how is, I know, like the application process, you guys are short. Are y'all in the hiring process now?
So it's what we used to hire once every 2 years. We're
Really?
basically we are now trying to basically hire consistently.
Oh,
We seem to have an open application process all the time. Like I said, we started that new paramedic-only program.
yeah.
So we're trying to pick up people that are certified paramedics where we can throw them right onto the street without
Yep.
minimal training and minimal downtime. We're also looking for firefighters that are certified so we can, bring them in and not have to put them through a 9 month fire academy. We can teach them the Norfolk way in a few weeks and then get them out there. But it's slim pickings,
So
unfortunately.
your academy is 9 months long?
It is about 9 months long. The application process is unfortunately almost just as long as the fire
Gosh.
academy. Yeah, by the time we, test them, get the applications in, test them, put them through the fingerprinting and the polygraphs and everything else, and then the medical physical to make sure that they're eligible for the position. It is probably close to 6 months, 7 months of a process.
So
And then
are you getting interest? I know I heard a thing from, I think it was Portsmouth Police or Fire a couple of months ago, actually had to delay a hiring process because they weren't getting enough applicants.
No, you know what? We're
Good,
very
good,
fortunate. We're
good.
fortunate that we on average get 300 to 400 applicants every time we put a process through.
Well, I'm sure you remember the days, and I'm trying to remember what year it was. It was the early 90s before my back problems started. I took the test for Norfolk, and I believe they tested, I think, if I remember right, it was 12 or 1,300 for 10 or 15 jobs.
Oh, that's what it was when I came in. I
Yeah,
want to
I
say it was
mean,
about 1,500 people. We took our test at the Norfolk Scope
yep, that's where I
because
took mine. Yeah.
there was so many people and there was less openings and more people applying. But yeah, and again, I am not blaming the younger generation. I think they just have a different outlook on life,
Yep,
and
exactly,
it's harder.
exactly.
And it's I think it's just harder to find people that want to do this job. And like you, I grew up in a fire department family. That's all I knew. My dad was a
Yeah.
firefighter for 32 years in
Oh,
Morocco,
okay.
and so that's kind of all I knew. And I know there's a lot of other firefighters in our department that are legacy
Oh, yeah,
members.
I know several chiefs that I grew up
Yeah,
running around the ball fields with when our
yeah,
dads were
yeah,
playing ball.
yeah, exactly. So that's just harder to find nowadays.
I
And
w-
it's also harder to find somebody who will stay on the job for 30 years. A lot of them.
oh, I know. That blows my mind.
Yeah. Yeah, they're much more. It's a more transient workforce nowadays. They want to get 5 6 years in and say that they've crossed that off their bucket list and
Yep.
move on to something different.
I had a friend back in the 90s when I was a volunteer firefighter down in North Carolina, and I was going through training down there. And one of the guys that I was training with, he was actually going to be a paid firefighter. And his philosophy was, I'll just do this till I find something better. And me, I was like, there is nothing better than being a firefighter. But, it didn't work out for me. I ended up in the sheriff's office. So, public servants, raised public servants is the way it looks.
I think you're right there. That's for sure. We just had a member retire the other day with 25 years on the job, and we were all talking about how fast your career goes by and how amazing the job still is, even to this day. I don't, there's
Yeah.
not many people that retire out of this job bitter in the workplace. They retire and miss it.
Well, I can tell you coming from 20 years of law enforcement, I don't miss the job. I miss the people, man. Because the stressful jobs that like you and I have, it's the people around you that get you
De-
through.
Definitely.
And
It's your second family.
yeah, people love firefighters and people love medics, but they don't think much of cops at all. So,
Yeah,
but
the environment
that's
for that has changed. That's for
yeah,
sure.
it's only been the last few years. I wouldn't trade my 20 years with the sheriff's office for anything. So let's touch a little bit on. All right, so the application process. Tell me a little bit about the academy. We know it's 9 months. Is it still Tidewater Regional?
It is Hampton Roads
Okay.
Regional now. It's kind of merged over. They switched names. Same premise. You go in there, and depending on how we coordinate it, whether you do the EMS side first or the fire side first, typically it's about maybe 3 to 4 months of fire, and then it's about 4 to 5 months of medical. The medical is much more academically challenging,
Oh yeah.
and the fire portion is much more physically challenging. So we try to, once you get in the academy, it's a very tough 9 months of work and training, and we try to get everybody medically and physically and mentally, mentally and physically ready for the job. But that sometimes, we do lose candidates in the academy because it's just not your normal job.
Yeah.
And our success rate is probably right around 60 to 65% pass rate. So
that's very good. But
yeah, and it's common. We talk to other departments around, and we're like, are we doing something wrong? But no, they deal with the same thing.
right.
And there are some people that apply for the job and go through the whole process and get on, and it's their first week in the fire academy, and they're like, this is not what I expected.
Nope. It's not.
Maybe we're just not doing a good enough job in educating them before they get in the door, but I don't know how else you could do it.
Well, I think a lot of it is, and you and I both come from firefighter families. We knew what we were getting into before we put the application in.
Absolutely.
So and it's not for everybody. I've known people personally that go through a fire academy or a police academy and quit 2 months after they get on the floors because they can't handle either the stress or, there's an aspect, because as well as I do, that whatever academy, whether you're a police officer or a sheriff's deputy or a firefighter, you go through that academy, it teaches you probably 70% of what you really need to know to do the job.
Yeah.
Because once you get out there and you're in those stressful situations and you're dealing with the accidents and the shootings and all that, a lot of people can't handle that. You get them out of that academic setting and they're done.
Right.
So what is, all right, so we've talked about the application and the hiring process in the academy. What happens when they come out of the academy?
Well, when they come out of the academy, what we try to do is we try to take each individual recruit and look at their personality and how they managed through the academy and try to pair them up with a station that might best suit them, so that we have a higher success rate. Because like I said, Station 14, the nut house, you're up all night.
Yeah.
And we're going to want somebody who did very well in the academy, looks like they would excel in a very busy station, with a group that likes to train a lot. We may put somebody else that's a little more reserved in a slower, easier environment to learn the job, different station. So, and if somebody's got strengths, like I said, water rescue strengths or swimming strengths, if they're previous lifeguards or swimming instructors or anything like that, we may put them, at a specialty station for the water rescue program. So we look at that to try and make sure we give them every opportunity we can to succeed in the career. So they report to duty and go to their office, but work on what we call a red book, which basically helps guide them through what station life is all about and how we can train them in the job once they're on the job.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's just, like you said, there's never a day you don't learn something different.
Yep. Yep.
And we try to make sure we cover all that for them.
Yeah. That's one of the goals of this podcast is to let the public know. I remember my dad saying that the people used to fuss about them sitting around the fire station playing dominoes because that's what they did in the 60s and 70s,
Right.
before the EMS. But, part of what I want to do here is get the public and give them some knowledge as to is we're not just sitting around the fire station watching TV. There's training going on and a little bit of
Yes.
everything. So the specialty units, the fire marshals, the boats, can you go to one of those units right out of the academy?
You can if you exhibit some of those skills
I
right off
got
the
you.
bat. Like I said, if say you're a previous Navy diver or previous lifeguard, if you show those skills and we may consider putting you at one of those specialty stations because the need for somebody with those specialty skills, typically, we try to put new recruits into stations where they will exceed in that kind of environment. So
Yeah, that's pretty smart, actually. I'm sure that's got to be some new stuff because back in the day, you just got stuck somewhere and you had to deal with it until you got somewhere else.
yeah, and and again, we try to look at the crews as well, and we look at the recruit and what type of person, what type of personality they have, and we look at the crew and make sure that we can try to line them up best for success. Because that's really what we want ultimately is for them to stay on, enjoy the job, and stay on the job.
Yeah, because if you're at a miserable station, you're not going to like the job and you're definitely
You're going
not
to
going to
leave.
hang around. Yeah.
Correct.
All right, Chief, I'm going to give you one shot. I want you to give me the best recruiting pitch for the Norfolk Fire and Rescue. Tell me what you guys got that other people don't have.
Well, we've got over 150 years of tradition. That is one of the things that set us up probably most up against everybody else. But if you look at the size of the city of Norfolk, it is not a very large city, but our call volume is extremely busy. And we have just the widest range of emergency calls here in the city. We have cruise ships, we have an international airport, we have several universities, we have light rail, we have waterways. I'm trying to think of what else I can throw at you there that, most other cities, we have the largest naval base in the world
Now, do you
that we
guys?
respond to. We have shipyards.
Okay. So you do
So,
run calls on the Navy base.
oh yeah, we run as a mutual aid with them. So
Okay.
if they have something on the base, we respond on the base with them to assist them. If there is something off base but near the base, they will actually respond and assist us.
Oh, okay. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So we've got such a wide range of emergency responses that we need to be ready for that most other cities don't have, is what my recruitment pitch would be.
Well, I'll tell you, and I'm going to back you up on that, Chief. There's a lot of tradition with that department, and if I could go back and rewind the clock till I was 19, 20 years old, I would have went straight to the fire department. But then again, they were testing 2,000 people for 5 jobs. And I do want to ask you one thing about firefighting because you guys in Norfolk deal with something that most of the cities don't, other than maybe Virginia Beach. You've got all those high rises down there. What do you guys use if you get a fire up high in one of those buildings?
Well, kind of like 9/11, we take the stairs.
Okay.
We train hard physically. We have a fitness program in our department. We every fire station has a wide variety of fitness equipment at it to make sure that we are ready for high rise incidents, which what we consider to be low frequency but high risk.
Yeah, I got you. I got you.
And so we try to train for that on a constant basis. We have quarterly fire drills in high rises just to keep us, up to date on all that. But yeah, like you said, they're they're a challenge, and we try to get through it.
Well, the reason I asked, I was thinking about that the other day, and I remember Dad telling me one day, and this was probably, had to be early 80s, that Norfolk had come up with I guess they were experimenting or something, but they had this thing that they were slinging from helicopters.
Well, that was before my time, but we don't have
I was
anything like
like,
that. I will tell you, we do use drones, like most departments, other departments do. We do use drones now in our service, but it's not for emergency response.
Oh, I got you.
So it would be for like an instant commander to be able to monitor a situation.
Things,
But yeah. But as far as it goes, unfortunately, it's still the old-fashioned fill your shoulders and tank with equipment and do it the old-fashioned way, taking the stairs.
Yeah. And you talked about September 11th, 9/11, and I think here's my philosophy on why you guys are having a hard time recruiting people. Back when you and I started, you remember, I don't know if you remember, you're old enough to remember Emergency, the TV show.
Yes.
Yeah, Johnny Gage and Roy
Yep.
DeSoto, everybody wanted to be a firefighter medic. And then Rescue 911 came out, and everybody saw how cool it was to run lights and sirens. And then September 11th happened, and New York City lost 2,000 firefighters.
Yeah.
And I think that also plays a part. But I think a lot of it is these young folks now, they're not as much into the tradition of it, and they can honestly make better money working, with less effort anywhere else.
I agree.
And that's it. I've always said, and most first responders, I think you'll probably agree, it's a calling.
It definitely.
It's not
a
a
job. It's not a job. It's calling. Right, absolutely. I agree with you.
I discovered it late in life because there aren't many people. And when I started with the sheriff's office in 2002, the pay was okay. I got into it more for the VRS benefits. But to put your life on the line for people you don't know, not everybody's going to do that.
Right.
And like you grew up in a firefighter family. I grew up in a firefighter family. And don't hang up after I sign off. I got a story for you. But anyway, Chief, I'm going to wrap this up. It was good talking to you. I know we've been playing phone tag and email tag for a couple of weeks, and I'm glad we could make this happen.
Yeah, me too. I appreciate the opportunity.
All right, don't hang up on me. I got a little bit of music still going to play, and then I'm going to stop. I'll get back to you.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, man.
You have been listening to the First Responders Podcast with your host, Brian Miller. Please tune in for future episodes of this podcast. Our podcast is dedicated to the men and women who serve the public as first responders. Thank you.